Morning, chat. Morning. How is everybody doing today? One second. One second. There we are. Hope everybody can see me. I'm sure you can. And I hope you're all ready to settle in because today is our Outlaws of Thunder Junction set review. So we're probably going to be sat here for like 6 hours, 6 to 7 hours it usually takes. I really need to work out some music or something to have on in the background, some ambiance, so that people don't just have to listen to me talking for 7 hours. But yeah, this is probably going to be us sat here for the next several hours, looking through all of the new cards. I'm pretty sure this is all the new cards. I mean, the set comes out, the pre-release is next Saturday. So, I'm pretty sure all the cards have been spoiled, and I'm pretty sure we got them all. Again, my partner isn't particularly savvy when it comes to Magic. He's only been playing for just since I got here, so just over a year. He's the one that goes and collects all the cards and puts them into a folder and helps me set all this up so that I don't get a chance to look through them all. Now, I will say, this time round, I did have some of my friends on Discord tag me and spam me with some messages from some of the new cards. So I have seen a couple. I've also seen Oko, although I don't really remember what he does. So yes, I have seen a couple of the new cards, but I don't remember exactly what they do. I didn't, sit there and go through whether I think they're good or not or anything like that. So this is going to be a first-time reaction to like 260 out of the 270 cards, and then 10 of them I will have seen before, but I won't have committed to memory. So, or talked about or decided what I think about them in draft at all. All I can say is, also, I've got a giant bottle of Coke today to try and get me through this. Last time I almost lost my voice. So, right. Let's start with the first card in the first... Oh my god. Come on, camera. First card in the first colour, which is white. And it's another round. So, 3 double X. Exile any number of creatures you control, then return them to the battlefield under their owner's control, then repeat this process X more times. So this is just board flicker. A board flicker for 3 isn't terrible, depending. If you've got a bunch of enter the battlefield effects and you can trigger them all again for 3, it can probably be pretty good. I don't know what enter the battlefield effects there are in this set, but I don't hate this card. I'm just debating, because it would be 5 to do it twice, right? Because this triggers once when you pay the 3. 5, it repeats the process 1 more times. Is it 4? Yeah, 7. So it's +2 every time to repeat the process another time. So, are there any enter the battlefield effects that we can think of currently in Standard that would win you the game if you repeated them several times? Because I know, thinking about it, the only white card I can think of that has an enter the battlefield effect that people use regularly is that dog, the 2-mana enchantment dog that lets you draw a card, and that's not going to win you any games. It's nice, but do you care? And then I suppose there's the 2-mana that lets you draw planes from your deck. But again, that's sort of incidental value. A lot of enter the battlefield effects are sort of incidental value. They're not winning you the game. Although, I guess you could run this with a Traxxer, right? Because the Traxxer's got white in her cost. So you could technically use this. I mean, I don't know why I'm thinking about it in Standard. What do I think about it in Limited? I think if there are very good enter the battlefield effects, let's say there's like a 1/1 that summons a 5/5 or something, or a 4/4 or whatever. If you've got like a couple of those and you, for 3, bounce all of them and then get an extra bunch of 4/4s, anything that is like a low statted creature that comes with a high statted token, bounce a bunch, bounce them all, get a bunch of extra 4/4s, do it a couple of times. It's not awful. Like, I don't know if I'd be excited to run this card. Like, I don't think I'm first picking this card, unless when I look through the white, there's a bunch of it. But I think if I've got some really nice Enter the Battlefield effects, I think I'm alright picking this thing up. Like, I'm not upset that this is my rare if I have some good Enter the Battlefield effects. So yeah, I don't mind this card. I'm not like blown away by it or anything, but I think it's fine. The Archangel of Tithes. I think this one was shown to me. 4 mana for a 3/5 flyer. I'm already all about this card in Limited. As long as Archangel of Tithes is untapped, creatures can't attack you or planeswalkers you control unless their controller pays 1. Okay. As long as Archangel of Tithes is attacking, creatures can't block unless their controller pays 1. This is just gross. This is disgusting, right? It has to be. You're losing on the board. You keep it untapped so your opponent can't do anything. As soon as you have enough creatures, you just swing. Like, your opponent has to leave up mana to block, or else they're gonna get fucked. Like, you'd have to be losing by like a lot. Because if your opponent wants to attack you on their turn, they're going to have to be paying the mana. And then if they want to block, they're probably not going to have the mana. I think this card's good. I mean, it's a 4 mana 3/5 flyer. It's good in Limited. The extra text underneath just makes it really good in Limited, I think. I'm going to say a solid I personally believe. Like, it's just... Yeah. It's just, it stops your opponent attacking you if they don't have the mana, unless they don't play anything and just attack with creatures and use the mana to attack you. But then that stops them from building the board. And if they ever tap out, they can't block anything and you can just swing out. Like, yeah, this is good. I think this is good. Well, this is definitely good. It has to be. Armored Armadillo. A 1 mana 0/4 with Ward 1. Right. And for 4 mana, it gets +X/+O, so it becomes a 4/4. It's okay. It's a nice defensive creature, I guess. Usually white wants to be aggro. Well, white comes in 2 flavors, full control or full aggro. So this is more of a controlling card, I feel like, because on turn 1 there's much better things mono white or white can do with aggressive usually. Again, we'll have to see the rest of the set. But I mean, it's like a 1 mana 0/4 with Ward 1. This is hard to get through. I don't think you're punching through this early. I think it just sits there and blocks. And then it can be a 4/4 later. I don't mind this card. Yeah, I don't mind this card at all. Is it good? Probably not. But I think this is nice if you just need something defensive. Yeah, I'm okay with this card. I don't think it's great in an aggressive deck, but I think it's nice defensively. Like, 4 mana to make it a 4/4 is... Like, I guess in Limited you're probably going to have 4 mana spare at some point, but, like, how much do you care? Avian Interrupter. What? Okay, 3 mana for a 2/2 with flash and flying. It's already pretty good. When Avian Interrupter enters the battlefield, exile target spell, it becomes plotted. Its owner may cast it as a sorcery on a later turn without paying its mana cost. Spells your opponent casts from graveyards or from exile cost 2 more to cast. So... So this is when your opponent plays a spell, you play this in response, exile it, it becomes plotted. So your opponent can play it again on a later turn, but it costs 2 more. That's what this is. That's what this says. Bit round and about way to say it, but that's what this says. What do I think of that? I think that's probably that's really really good. I imagine. Like it's a 2/2 flying flash creature that comes down in your opponent's turn and screws them. Because if they've used all their mana to play whatever the card is, you go, nah, I'm right, thanks. It gets exiled and they can play it later without paying its mana cost. Oh wait. Cast as I say, without paying its mana cost. Oh, so they don't. Spells your opponent cast from graveyards or from exile cost 2 more. So, without paying its mana cost, but it does cost 2. I still think it's good. First of all, they can't play it on that turn. They'd have to wait until next turn. It's just tempo. It's just good tempo. But it also stops your opponent from casting cards from their graveyard or from exile, which is nice. But yeah, I'm assuming that would mean all plotted cards now cost 2 because they're being cast from exile, but you don't have to pay their mana cost. But this is an extra cost rather than the initial mana cost. So it would mean all plotted cards for your opponent now cost 2. I think so. But yeah, this is a good card. And this is another... No, this isn't good with the bounce thing because the bounce thing is sorcery, so... And we're still looking for a card that's good with the bounce thing, but we haven't seen any good enter the battlefield effects yet. But I like this card. I think this card is good. It's good tempo in white, which is, you know, an aggressive colour. So yeah, this is pretty good. Bounding Felidar, 6 mana. When Bounding Felidar attacks while saddled, put a +1/+1 counter on each other creature you control. You gain 1 life for each of those creatures. Saddle 2. Tap any number of other creatures you control with total power 2 or more. It's crew. This mount becomes saddled until end of turn. Saddle only as a sorcery. It's bad crew. Sorry. Should reiterate. It's bad crew. Okay. Interesting. First look at saddled. We saw plot as well. I think I've seen plot, as I said, in one of the cards people were asking in my Discord chat for me, or my friends in Discord were asking me to react to. What do I think of saddled? What do I think of saddled? I think it's okay. I mean, this one specifically is... this is very expensive. But very expensive is fine in limited. Like, I don't know. It's a 6 mana 4/7. And then when it attacks, everything on your side of the field gets bigger, including the things that saddled it, so it doesn't matter. So these will be... Like... And you gain life. That's a good effect. Sort of like white... Not very good overrun on a creature. I don't know. I think this is a bit too expensive. Like... I think it's a bit too expensive, at least. Maybe it's not. 1 second, I'm just gonna... Yeah, I think it's a bit too expensive. But it's hard... Yeah, no, it's probably not good. Because again, you have to play this for 6, wait a turn, because it doesn't have haste or anything. And then the following turn, you have to tap 2 creatures with power 2 or more to saddle this thing, to attack... To give everything you attack, to give everything you control +1/+1 and gain some life. I mean, it depends what's in the set. This could be the biggest thing in there. It's the biggest thing we've seen. But like, I'm not overwhelmed with this card. I'm just kind of... Maybe it's a good board stall breaker. Like, you and your opponent both stall the board. You're sat there. You can't really get any attacks. You play this, crew it, swing. All of your stuff gets bigger. Your opponent has to kill this. Or they're just going to get bigger. You get a bunch of life for it. Like, it's not terrible. 6 mana is a lot. Especially in white. Unless you're playing white control, and then why do you want this? But in limited, games go longer. So you're more likely to get to this card in things like draft and limit and, you know, whatever, the sealed and all the rest of it. I'm gonna give it an to not very good. Bovine Intervention. 2 mana, instant, destroy target artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 2/2 white ox. This is good. This is really good. For white? Is white the new black? 2 mana, instant speed removal. Sure, it leaves behind a 2/2 white ox, but who cares? This is gross. Yeah, this is really good. Yeah. Yeah, no, this is really good. I mean, it's 2 mana instant speed removal in white. White always like instant speed removal in white always leaves something behind, but usually at 2 mana like this, instant speed, it's rare. Like, what do we have? God, there was the 2 mana destroy target creature or planeswalker. Its controller investigates. So you got a clue. There was one in the last set that was a 2 mana like get lost. Yeah, get lost. 2 mana destroy something. Your opponent gets a couple of map tokens. This is 2 mana destroy something. Your opponent gets a 2/2. This is great. Uncommon as well. This is really good. You could have a couple of these in your white deck. This is really good. Yeah, this is very good. Very, very good. Bridled Bighorn. 4 mana for a 3/4 with vigilance. And whenever it attacks while saddled, I create a sheep token. Saddle 2. It's okay. Its stats aren't great. Like 3/4 for 4. Vigilance is nice. And you need to pay 2 creatures or 2 power into it to get 1 power out. But that means every couple of turns it pays for itself. White likes tokens, assuming that they're going to be doing something with the tokens. Again, this isn't an enter the battlefield effect. This is an attack. So that the weird white spell at the start is still not doing anything with these cards. But I don't hate this card. I think it's just a out of 10. It's not all inspiring. I'd probably play one maybe if I had to. It's like my 22nd card. But, you know, it's not bad. Claim Jumper. Okay. 3 mana, 3/3 vigilance. Always good. When it enters the battlefield, if an opponent controls more lands than you, search your library for a plains and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then, if an opponent controls more lands than you, repeat this process once. If you search your library this way, shuffle. This is good, right? Probably really good. I mean, it just means if your opponent went first, you're getting a land out of this. And if you've been mana screwed or your opponent has ramped, you get 2 lands out of this. And it's a perfectly fine 3 mana, 3/3 vigilance on curve. This is good. This has to be good. Like, it's not game-winning bomb good, but it's just a nice little, you know, guaranteed way of getting the lands out you need. I mean, with this guy, you could probably drop a land. Maybe run like 16 instead of 17, because if you pull this guy, you're gonna smooth your draw out. He kind of is an extra land, but he costs 3, so maybe not. I don't know. I like him though. No, this guy I like. I like this guy. This guy's good. He's probably going to show up in standard, I imagine, so he's probably good enough for limited. Does he show up in standard? Maybe. Yeah, because you can get the triumphs with it, can't you? Yeah, this guy's good. I like this guy. Dust Animus. Okay, a 2-mana 2/3 flying. What? If you control 5 or more untapped lands, Dust Animus enters the battlefield with 2+1/+1 counters and a lifelink counter, making it a 5 or more untapped lands. So, plot, you may pay 2, exile this card from your hand, cast it as a sorcery on a later turn without paying its mana cost, plot only as a sorcery. So if you get this thing early and you don't need it, you just plot it, and then on turn 5, it's a free 4/5 flying lifelinker. What? This card's insane. I mean, it doesn't have any protection, so it dies to removal, but, I mean, everything that we've seen dies to removal, and this is limited we're talking about, so hopefully your opponent's going to have less removal. This card's really fucking good. I mean, turn 2, a 2/3 flyer is still rough. Like, you just play this on turn 2, and you can just start smashing your opponent in the face. They're probably still going to have to remove it, because I don't think they're going to have anything that big in the air that early. This card's really good. I like this card. I mean, I think if you pull it, if you've got it in hand, you probably just plot it every time, because it's so much better as a 4/5 lifelinker on turn 5 with flying still. That I think you 9 times out of 10 you want to plot it unless you're like really fucking aggressive. But I mean, I like that. This card's good. There's some really nice cards in white at the moment. Ariet's Lullaby. 2 mana. Destroy target tapped creature. You gain 2 life. Sorcery speed. Okay. So, slow, but still good in limited, right? It's not great. I'd still prefer the bovine one because instant speed, fuck you, there's a cow. But this isn't terrible. It's still removal. Like, in limited, you still play things like this, even though they're not as good as other things because you don't have access to the other things. So I still think this is fine. I think white's got some nice removal options. Final Showdown. Spree. Choose. So it costs 1 base, and then the 1 base does nothing. Okay. Right. So, for 1 mana, it does nothing. For 2 mana, you can make all creatures lose all abilities until end of turn. For either 2 or 3 with the previous cost, you can choose a creature you control. It gains indestructible until end of turn. And then for 5 additional, 2 of it being white, you can destroy all creatures. So this is 6 mana, destroy all creatures. 7 mana, destroy every... 7 mana, destroy all creatures. They lose all abilities before you destroy them, so they're completely worthless. 8 mana, destroy all creatures because they lose all abilities apart from 1 that you have given indestructible until end of turn. Right? So for 8 mana, this is nuke everything apart from 1 thing you own. Okay. I think this is pricey. This is probably too expensive. Yeah, this is probably too expensive for standard play because standard has Sunfall in it at the moment, which is just better than this. Because it's 5 mana, it exiles all creatures instead of destroying them to send them to the graveyard, and it leaves behind a creature anyway. So this doesn't see play in standard, but I think in limited you kind of just take the board wipe, because you either are behind on the board and you play it and your opponent's screwed, or you have it in hand so you let your opponent play into it and then you blow the board up and your opponent's screwed. Like, board wipes are always so one-sided and limited, I think, most of the time. Unless you are really far behind, that just having a board wipe is probably great. This is a bit of an expensive board wipe, but it's fine. I don't mind this. I think this is like this. It's a board wipe, so you just play it in limited if you get it. I mean, it's mythic rare, so you probably won't see it. But if you do, I think you just run it because it's board wipe. Fortune Loyal Steed. 3 mana. When Fortune Loyal Steed enters the battlefield, scry 1. Hey, look, we found something that can do something when you bounce it. Congratulations, we one thing in the entire set. It's a 2/4, and whenever it attacks while saddled, and it saddles 1, so anything can saddle it. At end of combat, exile it, and up to 1 creature that saddled it this turn, and then return those cards to the battlefield under their owner's control, which triggers its enter the battlefield effect and triggers whatever saddled it enters the battlefield effect. This is good. I think this is way better than the first card we saw. The 3 mana bounce everything card that you can copy a number, that you can make it do it again and again and again. This is a creature that does it with, and from the looks of it, there's not going to be a massive amount of stuff you want to bounce in the set. This is the first one we've seen. So, yeah, I'd say this is good. I would prefer this over the other rare, the first one we saw. Like, this card is just better. It's a creature. Its stats are fine. It's not great. I mean, a 2/4 is meh. But, I mean, it scries when it enters the battlefield when you first play it. Then when you attack with it, if you get, like, if your opponent doesn't immediately blow it up, you can attack with it the following turn, probably. And if you're attacking with it, it's saddled. Even if they kill this, you still get the enter the battlefield effect from whatever saddled it. Because even if this dies and you don't get this enter the battlefield effect again, you get whatever saddles it enter the battlefield effect, because whatever saddled it didn't attack. It just tapped to saddle this. So I think this card is... I mean, I'd be happy running it. I think this card is good. I think... Yeah, there's some cards in this set that I'm sure this card works really well with. Like, even the bunny this is fine with. It's not great because they're both going to cost 3, so you're going to have to play one and then the other. I suppose you play this first, then you play the bunny the next turn, and if you get any triggers off the bunny, you're very unlikely to get any triggers from saddling it with the bunny, but who knows, maybe you're massively far behind in mana. But if you are, then I imagine even that doesn't save you. But yeah, I like this card. Frontier Seeker. By the way, what is White's thing? White seems to be a jumble of, like, is it saddled? Is saddled the white thing? Whatever, we'll keep going. 2 mana for a 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a mount creature. Is this a mount? Okay, so mount is anything that can be saddled? Yes. Anything that can be saddled is a mount. Cool. A mount creature... So, I guess white is... Saddled is white's thing. A mount creature card or a plains card from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest of them from your library in a random order. Good card. It just is. It's a 2 mana, play something, look for another card. Replaces itself in your hand, whether it be with a plains or a creature. One of 2 you will almost definitely... I mean, I know it's a specific type of creature, but if mounts and saddle are white's thing, you've probably got a number of them. And you can always just get a plains card if you don't hit one of those creatures. This card is good. I like this card. I would run multiple copies of this card. I mean, I know it's only a 2/1 for 2, which ain't great. But, I mean, I think just getting the extra cards into your... Like, the ability to look at the top 5 and put a card... This is just... Yeah, this is good. I think this card is good. Certainly, I will play it. Getaway Glamour. Okay. So, again, it costs 1. This one's instant speed. What was the other one? Final Showdown, instant speed. Oh my god. Okay, so this card is actually way better than I thought. Maybe this is actually almost as good as Sunfall. An instant speed board wipe is much more destructive than a sorcery speed board wipe, because in standard at the moment, I think all the board wipes are sorcery speed. So if your opponent, like, even if you're just a control deck and just wiping the board on your opponent's turn, they can always have, like, the lands that have become creatures. This kills those. Anyway, back to this one. So for 2 mana, exile target non-token creature, return to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next end step. Sure. And for 3 mana, destroy target creature if no other creature has greater power. So destroy the biggest of boys. This is pretty good. Like, it's 2 mana, re-trigger your enter the battlefield effects, which is fine. I think you take this for the destroy target creature, the instant speed, 3 mana, destroy the biggest of boys. But if it's rotting in your hand and you think your opponent isn't playing big creatures, or you're just, you know, way ahead or whatever, you can just use it to get further ahead by bouncing something. Or just bounce your opponent's blocker and smack him in the mouth. I think this is good. Yeah, I like this card. I like a lot of these white cards, actually. They're very good. Hanoon. Okay. 2 mana for enchantment. Each player can't cast more than 1 spell each turn. And then for red and 5, it deals 5 damage to any target. I don't know. For limited, I'm going to say... Like, I don't know. In certain matchups, limiting your opponent to 1 spell each... I mean, this is the thing. You're limiting yourself and your opponent. So, if you're doing this, you're probably not playing aggro. You're probably a control deck. I don't know. Are you? Maybe you're just curving out nicely? I don't know. I don't think in limited this is good. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this is actually really good in limited. Like, turn 1, play a land. Your opponent plays a land. Turn 2, you play this. Your opponent plays a creature. Turn 3, you play something. It depends. Depends which one of you wants to play multiple dudes more. Like, because if you play this up against another, like, an aggro deck, they get screwed because they can only play 1 creature a turn and then they're just sad. But if you play this against a control deck who's only going to be playing 1 spell a turn and probably not playing that much more until, like, turn 4, 5, and 6, and then they're going to just be playing big things at that point, they don't care. And then you're going to, what, pay 5 to deal 5? Sure. Like, I don't think this is great. Not in limited, at least. I think maybe in standard, perhaps. Maybe. But in limited, I don't. Holy cow! Okay, I like it. Ooh, 3 mana for a flash flying 2/2. There's a lot of flying in white. When Holy Cow enters the battlefield, you gain 2 life and scry 1. Okay. This is another good... Like, again, this is something you can play on your opponent's turn, and then when it comes around to your turn, you can start hitting with it. You've gained life, you've scryed 1 to set yourself up for your turn a little bit better, and you can use it to saddle your the Felidar, the other mount thing that we had, this thing, because this is saddle 1, so this can still saddle it. So you'd have an Ox Angel riding a beast mount. That would be odd. But yeah, and then you can trigger it to gain more life and keep scrying. If your opponent can't stop you, you can kind of just go, this thing's good. And it's common, so you're probably running like several of these, right? I really hope there's some things with like reach or flying in all the other colours, because white's just going to fly over and batter people in this set. But this is just a nice little card to have, and you're probably going to have a bunch of them, because you just play it, gain some life, scry, play it, gain some... This is a nice little card. Inventive Wingsmith. 3 mana for a 2/4. At the beginning of your end step, if you haven't cast a spell from your hand this turn, and Inventive Wingsmith doesn't have a flying counter on it, put a flying counter on it. Okay, so the turn you play this for 3, it's a 3 mana 2/4 do nothing. The turn after, you probably have 4 mana, and you have to give up 4 mana to play nothing in your turn so that this can get flying. That sounds ass. Right? Like, I mean, maybe in the late game when you don't have cards in hand, or you're not playing the cards because you're saving them because they're instant speed and you're going to play them on your opponent's turn. Maybe. But isn't this just like ass the majority of the time? It's a 3 mana 2/4 that does nothing unless you sacrifice an entire turn. That's just useless. Like, I don't know. I wouldn't play this card. I personally wouldn't play this card. Maybe I'd have to. Maybe it's like a 23rd card, but I would not be excited about this being a card in my deck. Lassoed by the Law. 4 mana enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent opponent controls to leaves. Sure. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 red mercenary creature token with tap. Target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. It's a bit pricey. I don't know. Like, it's removal. You probably play it. It's removal that comes with a dude. Sure. Again, White's had access to some very nice removal. They had the 2 mana turn something into a cow, instant speed, and then they had the 2 mana destroy a tapped thing, and then they had the 3 mana destroy the biggest of boys, and now they've got this at 4 mana exile a thing while this is on the battlefield and make a dude, a 1/1 dude. Like, so essentially this is this would usually cost 3 mana, so you're paying the extra mana for a 1/1 creature token that can give something +1/+0. Is that worth it? It's the most mediocre of things ever, but maybe. Again, this is one of those cards. You probably run it because it's removal. Like, it's just what you do in Limited. You just take removal. But I'm not as excited about this as I am about the other pieces of removal we've had access to. So, but you probably still take it because it's removal. Mystical Tether. Okay. 3 mana, enchantment, you may cast it so it had flash if you pay 5. Enter battlefield, exile target. Okay. So this is a more reasonable... This is a common? Man, White has so much removal. Yeah, this is more reasonable. This is 3 mana, exile a thing, and then 5 mana, you can instant speed exile a thing. Like, I think this is better than this. Because this is 4 mana. to do exactly what Mystical Tether does. So it's 1 more mana to do what Mystical Tether does, but you get a dude out of it. And I don't think a 1 mana, I don't think a 1/1 mercenary creature token that taps to give something +1/+0 until end of turn at sorcery speed is as good as just doing it cheap or doing it at instant speed for more expensive. Like I'd pay if this was instant speed and just had the top part, I'd probably be fine with I'd probably say this is better than this if this didn't have the pay extra part. But like, this is not instant speed. This can be instant speed. I think Mystical Tether I like more. And it's common, so you're probably going to be running like multiple of these. White also has so... Maybe you are playing white control. Maybe you just play that armadillo thing and then just control your opponent's stuff and then start beating them down with a 4/4 armored armadillo. Oh, that would be weird, wouldn't it? Okay. Nurturing Pixie. Okay, a 1 mana 1/1 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, return up to 1 target non-fairy, non-land permanent you control to its owner's hand. If a permanent was returned this way, put a +1/+1 counter on it and make it a 2/2. So 1 mana 1/1 flyer that if you get it later on in the game can re-trigger battle cries and is a 2/2 flyer. This is okay. This is probably decent. I think it's yeah, it's a flyer. It's a flyer. You probably run it. Like, you just run the flyers in limited. So this you at least play, and sometimes it's better than just a 1/1 flyer, which is great. Sometimes you don't want to play it, or you just... Oh, wait, you have to. When it enters the battlefield, return... It's not you may. It's return up to 1 target, non-fairy, non-permanent. Ha, that could trick people up. I don't know. I think this is still good. Like, it's a turn 1/1 flyer, or later on it's, you know, bounce a card and get a 2/2, and then you can replay it for battlecry effects. Like with the flying ox thing, it's good. It's good. You play the ox at the end of your opponent's turn, you attack with it on your turn, and then you play this to return the ox back to your hand, and you still got 2/2 flyer, and you can re-trigger the ox you can play the ox in your opponent's turn again because it's only cost 1. Like, I think this is probably good. Omen Port Vigilante. Okay. 2 mana for 2/2, has double strike as long as you've committed a crime this turn. Committed a crime? Targeting opponents, anything they control, and or cards in their graveyard is a crime. Okay, so do anything to your opponent, and this has double strike. White has a lot of removal. This could be really strong. Like, because this isn't... You can trigger this on your own turn if you've got on your opponent's turn if you've got instant speed stuff. This is probably really good, right? If you've got enough removal to get it going. And if this comes down on turn 2, on turn 3 you can start like exiling things your opponents control, turning them into 2/2 oxes, whatever you want, and this thing just gets double strike and starts beating ass. Yeah, this is good, I think. If you have enough removal... Like, again, in Limited, you might not have enough removal to make this work. But White has access to a lot of removal. And if you do have the removal to make this work, this is just going to beat people up. One last job. Okay, so it costs 3 to do nothing. So for +2, so 5, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Sure. For 4, return target mount or vehicle card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Okay. Sure. And for 4, again, return target aura or equipment card from your graveyard to the battlefield attached to a creature you control. So for 7, you can get a mount, a creature to saddle it, although the mount won't be able to attack, so it's kind of pointless, and an aura or equipment card to equip onto the creature or the mount, all in one turn. I think in Limited, this isn't very good. You're probably just going to be playing it for 5 to get a creature back. And, like, I never like these cards. I think usually you just prefer... unless you are literally built around one card in your deck. Like, one bomb card is your whole deck, and you're just running stuff to get to the bomb and or bring the bomb back when your opponents deal with it. I don't think this card is good. But we will have to see. Maybe there's some really insane bombs that you can just use this to keep bringing back. Again, I haven't seen any exile effects yet, I don't think. So if there's not any exile effects, this can just bring back the same thing over and over again, which is really good. Assuming the card is a really good bomb. But I think in Limited, I wouldn't take this. Unless, like I said, unless there was one specific bomb card that I was building an entire deck around, I would not take this card. I'd just be like, yeah, whatever. Outlaw Medic. 2 mana for a 1/3 with lifelink, and when it dies, draw a card. Good little card. Like it. Big fan. It's 2 mana creature with lifelink that's going to heal you steadily, and when it dies, you just get to replace it with a card in your hand. That's great. You run this in Limited. You probably run a couple of these in Limited. You're happy to run like 2 or 3 of these, I think. Yeah, 2 or 3? 2. 2 you're happy to run in Limited. Prairie Dog. Okay, 2 mana, 2/2 with lifelink, sure. At the beginning of your end step, if you haven't cast a spell from your hand this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on it. And for 5 mana, until end of turn, if you would put 1 or more counters on a creature you control, put that many +1. So 1 extra +1/+1 counter on it instead. It's a squirrel. We like squirrels. What do I think of this card? I think this is better than the flying one. First of all, it comes down sooner. Secondly, it's a functional card by itself because it's a 2 mana 2/2 with lifelink. That if you just happen not to play anything, it gets a little bit bigger. And at 5 mana, you can use it to start putting extra counters on things. I don't know. Maybe you run a couple of these and you just have like an army of steadily growing prairie dogs. That you're just not playing anything and everything's instant speed in your hand or has like flash. Maybe. I think this is fine and Limited. Again, like, it's a 2/2 for 2 with lifelink. You're not upset about those stats. So you're probably just running it. And sometimes there's upside and it gets bigger. Sometimes you won't, but sometimes you will. In Limited, there are certainly turns where you might not do anything because you've got instant speed stuff in hand, or there's just no point doing anything to the board. We just have nothing in hand. And this gets bigger when that happens. Like, the flying one I just don't like because it just doesn't feel like there's a good enough payoff. Because it's just like, yeah, you get flying or 2/4, who cares? This actually already has lifelink and gets bigger and becomes more of a problem. So this is like more of a payoff. So I think this is good. Prosperity Tycoon. Okay. 4 mana for a 4/2. When it enters the battlefield, you create the 1/1 mercenaries. Sure. And tap 2, sacrifice a token. It gains indestructible and tap it. Not bad. Not great, but not bad. The fact that it costs 2 mana to make it indestructible is a bit crappy. But it is 4 damage that you could just keep swinging at your opponent, and like if they want to kill it, they have to block. Like it takes. This comes with a token, so it's got at least one indestructible in itself. Unless you, like, remove the token, and then why you remove... Like, yeah. I think this card is good. I think I'd run this card. I think a 4/2 that comes with an extra token that on the attack can be a 5/2, and, like, no matter what your opponent does to it, whether they try to destroy this, the only thing that can hit this is exile. And again, I haven't seen any exile yet, but yeah, if your opponent tries to destroy this, you sack the token. If your opponent tries to destroy the token, you sack the token. It's, again, I prefer it didn't cost 2. I prefer it was just like sacrifice something, gain indestructible, but that would probably be too busted. The fact that it costs 2 is a bit of a pain, but it's probably still good enough because you can just start beating the ass with a 4/2. Or you can endlessly block with it. Because you can block, tap 2, sacrifice the token, tap it, but it doesn't matter because it's already been declared blocking, so it still blocks. So, yeah, I think this is good. Requisition Raid. Okay. So, for 2 mana, you can destroy an artifact, or an enchantment, or put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Or for 4 mana, you can do all of the above. Or 3 mana, you can do 2, essentially. I think this is actually okay. I mean, it's sorcery speed, so it's not great. But if there's some dangerous artifacts or enchantments in this set, it's nice to have a way to remove them. And if your opponent doesn't have any dangerous artifacts or enchantments, boom, my field gets bigger. Swing. Right? Like, it's not a rotting card. It's not a card that you're like, oh, well, they don't have an artifact or enchantment. I can't play this. Like, you probably run at least one of these. Like, it does what the 6 mana... the part of the 6 mana creature you want as white, which is everything getting a +1/+1 counter, this does for 2. So I'd probably run this instead of that Felidar Strider thing. Just because, yeah, it just does what you want for cheaper. Rustler Rampage. Instant speed. You can, for 2 mana, untap all creatures target player controls, so you can do it on the block. Or you can give a creature double strike until end of turn. Not bad. Just get something to 10 power with buff cards and Oko someone. You probably just use this to... again, this is fine, actually, because you can use it as a... You like, swing out, and your opponent takes a ton of damage, tries to swing back and kill you, and you just untap everything and get your blocks in. Or you can swing out, and after your opponent's declared blockers, you give whatever gets through double striking, just smash them. Like, I like this card. Or both. Because you can give something... You can smash them with double strike and then untap all your creatures after they've attacked. And then your opponent can't swing back. Yeah, this is a good card. For like 2 mana, yeah. Or 3 mana, I suppose. But yeah, I like this card. Shepherd of the Clouds. Okay. 5 mana for a 4/3 Flying Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, return target permanent card with mana 3 or less from your graveyard to the hand. Return that card to the battlefield if you control a mount. Oh. This is good. First of all, it's a flying vigilance creature, so that just makes it good. I mean, it's a 5 mana, 4/3, but flying means that it can't be blocked by a bunch of stuff. Vigilance means it doesn't tap, so you can start beating ass. And seeing as mounts seem to be White's thing, you probably have a mount card, or you hope to have played a mount card. You can then return a creature to the battlefield. This is good. This is good. This is a very good creature. This is, a 5 mana 4/3 Flying Vigilance that comes with a 2/2 Ox Angel that heals you for 2 and scries 1. As long as you have a mount, which hopefully you do. And then the Ox saddles the mount because the mount is a Felidar thing. And then you get to bounce the Ox and get to heal 2 and scry 1 again. Oh man, this is good. Mono White is seeming good. Like, this is weirdly good. Sheriff of Safe Passage. 3 mana for a 0/0. Sheriff Safe Passage enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it, plus an okay, so it's a 1/1. Plus an additional +1/+1 counter on it for each other creature you control. And you can plot this and play it later. This is probably fine. Like, again, weenies, white weenies is kind of a thing. So you're probably hoping to have a bunch of creatures in white. So this probably just comes down as like a 3 mana 3/3, 4/4, 5/5. If you plot it, it's a free whatever the hell you want it to be. I think this is pretty good. I think this is pretty good. I'd take this. This is a good card. Stagecoach Security. Okay. 1 second. When Stagecoach Security enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain vigilance until end of turn. It's a 5 mana 4/5. Or you could plot it. This is also better than that Fellatari, right? Because this doesn't need to be saddled and swung with. This just, when it enters the battlefield, all your creatures... This is like sort of like a... Okay, this is like Overrun-ish. Overrun's way stronger than this. But this is like an Overrun effect. Because everything gets stronger. Everything gets Vigilance. I prefer Trample, but I'll take Vigilance because it's a white card. I don't know if you'd ever plot it. Would you ever plot this? I guess, because you plot it... Well, no. You'd probably play something else on turn 4 and then just play this on turn 5, right? I don't know why you plot this on turn 4. Unless you have a bunch of cards you want to play. But then, why would you not just play those cards and then play this the turn after? I don't think you plot this one. I think you're more likely to just play this one. But again, I think this is better than the Feldari Strider thing that was like, you know, when I attack, everyone gets +1/+1 counter and you heal. I guess this is only until end of turn, but if you're playing this, you're hoping to kill your opponent. So, yeah. And if you're white weenies, you want your opponent... if your opponent's dead by turn 4 when you're playing mono white weenies or like white-red aggro or something like that, you're a happy boy. Steer Clear. Okay. 1 mana for instant speed, 2 damage to target attacking or blocking creature, deals 4 damage to that creature if you control a mount. Good card. Removal. 1 mana, deal 2. Like, again, it's not play with fire or shock or whatever in red. That's just, you know, free 2 damage or whatever you want. But in limited, people are going to be attacking or blocking a lot more. You could just boop. And what mounts are the white thing, and if you have one, it's a 4 damage, which is just good. Sterling Keykeeper. 2 mana for a 2/2, tap target, and then for 2 mana, tap target non-mount creature. Cards like this are fine, usually. Maybe have like one of them in your limited deck. I don't really care for them. I'd prefer to just creatures that beat ass a bit better. But it does allow you to tap down generally your creature's biggest blocker. Or your opponent's biggest blocker, or your opponent's only blocker, and then just keep hitting them. And if you're aggro, that can buy you the turn you need to kill someone. So, one of these is probably fine. Sterling Supplier, 5 mana for a 3/4 flyer, and when it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature you control. It's flying. You probably take it. It's a 5. It's not great because it's a 5 mana 3/4. I'd prefer to take the Pegasus as a 5 mana 4/3 that brings stuff back. But it's a flyer. It makes something bigger. The fact that it's a flyer is probably what you're picking it for. So yeah, you probably run this in limited. Take up the Shield. Isn't this a reprint? Yes. This is a reprint. The last one had what's his name? Ajani with the shield in front of him. It was the set before Ajani got Phyrexianized. Because it was supposed to show the moment he was overrun protecting his friends, right? This is a reprint. This card is good, by the way. Very good. Like, really, really good. This was one of the best cards in Limited, I think, at the time. It's 2 mana, no, my creature doesn't die. It actually gets bigger, and I heal. This card is really good. Just so everybody knows, this card is very good. It was very good when it was first printed. It's very good now. Can almost guarantee it. Thunder Lasso. Oh, an equipment. 3 mana for when it's battlefield attached. Oh, it comes in attached automatically. Okay, cool. A equipped creature gets +1/+1. Sure. And whenever it attacks, tap target creature defending player controls. This is actually decent. So, this guy is 2 to play. And then he can't tap the turn he comes down. And then it's 2 to tap from then on. Right? This is 3 to play, so it's 1 more expensive. I get that. But you equip it directly to a creature, swing, the creature does it automatically. And the creature gets bigger. Also, targeting opponents or anything they control. So if you have this Omen Port Vigilante on turn 2, and then on turn 3, you play the Thunder Lasso, equip it to it automatically because it comes in equipped. The Omen Vigilante becomes a 3/3 with a 3/3. You swing, you target your opponent's only blocker. Your guy, you've committed a crime because you've targeted something your opponent controls. Your Vigilante gets double strike. You crack your opponent for 6 in the face. That's scary. Now, they are both uncommon, so, you know, the chance that you actually get this regularly is not particularly high. But I think this, like, if you've got a choice between the Sterling Keykeeper or the Thunder Lasso, take the Thunder Lasso. Right? I suppose the thing is, if your opponent just blows up the creature and then you have to re-equip it, it's now way more expensive than the other guy. But the other guy costs 2 every single time, so I'd still think the Thunder Lasso is probably better. Trained Arix. 2 mana, 3/1. Saddle 2, sure. Whenever it attacks while saddled, it gains first strike and you scry 1. This is good. I mean, like, yeah, it gets. The problem is you have to pay. You're not attacking with a 2-power creature, but this gets first strike. First strike is one of the most annoying abilities to try and fight with. Like, if this has first strike regularly, your opponent's probably just not blocking it. They're probably just getting creamed in the face for 3. And you get to scry. Yeah, this card's good. This card has to be good. For 2 mana, like, it's not great. It's not a great card, but I think it's a fine. Again, it's a mount. You want lots of mounts in your white deck. It gets first strike, which is one of the best attacking keywords. I think this is good. Vengeful Townsfolk. 3 mana for 3/3. Whenever one or more other creatures you control die, put a +1. I think this is a reprint as well, isn't it? It came from like the zombie people. Maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking something. I think it was a 1 mana 1/1 that did a similar effect, so maybe not. But yeah, this is good. I like these sort of things are good in limited because you just play this and you don't attack with it and you swing with all the rest of your stuff and your opponent can't just take all of that damage to the face, so they have to block. And then when they block and kill a bunch of things, this just gets really big. So unless they've got the removal for this, this just then starts cracking them in the face. So I like Vengeful Townsfolk. Wanted Griffin. A 4 mana, it's flying, so you probably take it. 4 mana, 3/2 flyer. When it dies, you create the mercenary. Sure. I mean, it's a flyer. You just white. You're probably just taking all of the flyers in white at this point. Hey, we're on to blue. I'm going to quickly go to the bathroom chat. I will be right back, and then we will get on with blue. So that was all the white cards. Maybe we'll go back and have a look. What were some of my favourites? I mean, I think Take Up the Shield is nice to see reprinted, but that card was very good. I think Shepherds of the Clouds is quite nice. Yeah, I think I liked a lot of these. I think this Omen Port Vigilante could be really scary. I think I like this Holy Cow a lot as well. A lot of the saddle things want you to saddle with 2, and this is something just really nice to play. I think there's a lot of mounts and a lot of flying in white, which could be very good. So we'll have to see, but it certainly looks good.